as this is a personal message on the behalf of this video, and everything that ultimately I will be conveying in this message and will be speaking upon is a direct message to particularly this target audience is going to be containing for parents who have children of their own, have families, or just anyone in general, to be honest. Could be a brother, or directed to a sister of a brother, friend of a friend perhaps, or just anyone really in general. And basically with this I wanted to say, which was, regardless of who others are, or even of your own children, we ultimately, inevitably, in the sole purpose of our coexistence, we need to bond together and help each other as a common bond in our collective society. So with this being said, we're able to truly manifest an awakening of consciousness through the act of kindness, generosity, charity, and along those lines are also promoting the ideology and philosophy, the philanthropy in itself of human coexistence and the genetics of our psychology, where we're able to truly manifest together of transitioning or transcending darkness into light. And there are so many parents in the modern infrastructure of the modern generation of our today's society, where so many sacrilegious people, or those who are not as like-minded, more of a mind that is so clouded or corroded or consumed or manifested in corruptions, manifested in a narrowed circle of our vision, entwining judgments or preconceived notions or assumptions of one another in particular. And the greatest form, before I get into that, was I myself, I am a Christian. I believe in a great architect of the infinite universe, in divine creator in our grace. However, that's aside from the topic. Before I get into that, there are so many people who are completely manifested or completely consumed or blinded from or by or deriving from an over exaggeration of religion in itself, where a lot of the parents you find these days actually apologize, restrict their children from being involved in certain activities that are positive activities, obviously, and restricting their children from being individuals, from practicing that philosophy of individuality. And you find so many of people who confined or constrict or confine their kids and each other within a modern applications and of projections of our society, where everyone judges one another, everyone victimizes each other inside the narrowed and yet venomous words of afflictions that it cuts beneath the flesh. And so many of the people actually constantly bully one another, judge one another. They absolutely, in human nature, assume everything about everyone around them. And that's absolutely no trace of how to coexist the remainder of our existences in itself. And there's no way of how we should ourselves confine in each other. And there's so many people that have little to no ambitions to getting to know that particular or a group of individuals beneath the flesh, and getting to know that individual to the core of that person his or her heart, and how we base our assumptions in the automatic judgments that is deriving from the consciousness of our narrow mind to that particular individual, or individuals rather. And growing up myself, ever since I was 12 years of age, my first rock band, believe it or not, was in fact Marilyn Manson. And I've absolutely admire and I love the entire gothic culture, the black metal community and its music, and never will I ever in the entire trace of my human existence, and to have changed myself would be the very last thing to happen to me. I would rather sign my death warrant than to confine myself to have altered or changed anything about myself to meet the expectations or the narrowed circle of perfect or an immaculate expectations or standards held upon or over me. And it's simply not worth it. You have to be your own individual. You have to take pride in the investment of your responsibility as a human being. In the same while, to remain as an individual, to be proud of that individuality, and simply for those of parents who restrict their children from expressing their individuality, or to support them in every positive possible perspective, and to stand behind in the affirmation of support for their own children or of each other, is in itself truly narrow-minded if you do not find a way to practice that, or allow the capability of your children to have an open mind, to practice that equality through diversity, and to express yourself as a human being. And being a victim of bullying myself growing up all throughout my human existence, I can tell you now that it's absolutely not pleasant in any shape, form, perspective, or otherwise that you could ever possibly imagine. And simply for being myself and of being different, I was the victim of a cataclysm of bullying. And as a human society, as we progress towards the journey of the light into the future, we become ourselves so much more advanced in the technological society of our devices. However, the human mind in itself, it constantly remains complacent, or it declines itself. Individualism, I believe, is the greatest skeleton key, which would have the potential and the variations of many problematic, of so many different solutions, and the cure in itself to open unlimited gateways and doors and secret passages within ourselves. So much of our potential could be surfaced to light should we decide to awaken our consciousness. And once that consciousness has been awakened, we are ultimately able to bring about a greater positive changes of deriving from our individuality, from our deepest core of imaginations, and we're able to transcend that towards something greater than above ourselves, and we are able to take that and we are able to change the world physically and everything negative around us into something positive. And its individuality is that channel of negatives, of darkness, into light and positive energies. And as a parent, you should always stand proud of who your son or daughter is, regardless of sexuality, of ethnicity, whether he or she has been adopted, perhaps, whether if we are all like fat, short, skinny, if we're midgets, if we're too tall, or our sexuality or religious preference or spiritual preferences, it should not matter or be of any kind of hindrance of any slightest form or shape of perspective. We should always, all of us, accept each other for who and what we are every single day of our lives. And to who and what we are is finding the beauty within imperfections. So perfections is perfections, as Jen and I would always say. There's absolutely no reason in the world why we should continue to spread hatred or narrow-mindedness or intolerance or this indifference towards or upon one another. And we should work together as a collective unity in the bonding of our grace, of our light, and bring forth that light into the world. And become something so much greater than yourselves, and so much greater than just an ordinary cookie cutter individual for a human being, and rise as a fire of a phoenix bird, to see yourselves ascend from the ashes into something, from nothingness and emptiness into a new portal, a dimension of realm, beyond the fourth dimension of something so greater than yourselves. You shape shift in your mind. You open the third eye of your consciousness. You become the altered future version of yourself that you envision to become something greater. And you find that purpose from within. I'm coming out. Thank you, honey. Individuality, I find, is the greatest key that I have unlocked in my personal coexistence throughout the duration of time of growing up as a mere infant into who I am today. I have shape-shifted that transcendence to, and that state of meditation, that state of existence, that awakening, that consciousness, that individuality of imagination, that moving about the realms of opening the eyes inside our hands, and we become something and someone so much greater. And compared, and if you take a look at what obviously I'm wearing like this, you do not necessarily need to dress as myself or anything remotely close to it in order to be an individual. Everyone, believe it or not, is different in the shape of our uniqueness. We are each to our own advancement of being an individual from within, as you rise from within the fire of who you are as a human being. And our mortality should not define who we are through the negative aspects of human nature. It should always be who and what we envision ourselves to become towards the future. What have we done now to help ourselves progress in the progression and the process of evolution, in that spiritual awakening, or in that spiritual progression? What have we done to open our eyes in the morning? What have we done to open the eyes of others? Have we helped others around ourselves? Have we helped even ourselves? What have we done positive today? What have we done positive yesterday, the day before? Or what will we have done towards the future? So everything has a contribution. Everything has some sort of predominant effect, where it's a lot like a house of cards, like a deck of cards, or a domino effect, or the butterfly effect, as I always say. So we have to help each other in the world to share a lot less hatred, violence, bigotry, judgments, assumptions, and what have you, and for us to ultimately, inevitably, to bind together, to bond together in the genetics of our support and the favor of one another on our behalf. And no more fighting, no more arguing with one another, no more passing the sword of judgment upon one another and afflicting harm or negative influences and upon ourselves and upon others around us. And especially, my heart beats for my message, what I'm trying to convey through this video. If, for God's sake, if you're yourself a father or a mother or a grandfather or a grandmother or what have you, or uncle or brother, sister, nephew, cousin, aunt, cousin, what have you, I ask of you, please do not continue to spread judgment upon one another. It's absolutely not worth it, and especially to your own children. To inflict that upon your own family is absolutely disgusting. And if you are someone who does that, you should, honest to God, be ashamed of yourselves. You have no right or reason of coexistence. You have no understanding, a little understanding in the invalid sentiments of how narrow your mind truly or indeed is. As you cannot think outside of the box, you understand so very little of the world around you. And I pray to God, I hope by the merciful God that you change for the positive, that you alter your mental state of mind, the frame of your consciousness for something grand and greater and more positive and more awakened. As we all of us need to progress and share this relationship together if we expect to change the world around us and share positive influence everywhere we go. So that's all I just wanted to say. I try to make this as quick as possible. This is a one-shot take. Thank you everyone so very much for watching our videos, and in the favor of your support for watching this channel. This channel itself is a project, a social project, raising awareness, donating our time, energy, and passionate fire towards charity or anything we could devote ourselves towards that commitment, that well-balanced, grounded stability that is found within us, in our passion, in our intensity of our aspirations, our purpose of life, of breathing the air, to bring about a revolution of consciousness so that we can inspire the world to change the world together. And let's hashtag, alright, let's do a hashtag, stop judgments, alright, individuality. So thank you everyone so much for watching this video, and for all of your positive support, for all of your friendships, and for taking a moment of time to listening or hearing out what I have to speak of in the testament of my own words, and for simply supporting this project of ours. And God bless everyone. Namaste. Have a great night, everyone. I pray to hope that everyone's ready for Christmas and that everyone is positive so far. So, farewell.